In this video, we are gonna discuss 3 unsolved disappearances that make absolutely no sense. Each of these disappearances is so strange and bizarre that it makes it hard to comprehend that something like this could have ever happened in real life. In every single one of these disappearances, it's as though each person simply vanished into thin air. Before we begin, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit a like and subscribe to the channel to never miss any future episodes if you like true crime content. In 2019, 26-year-old Prisma Reyes stood idly outside an elevator in Mesquite, Texas. Moments later, she moves off camera to never be seen again. After moving to the Dallas area from Veracruz, Mexico as a young girl, Reyes became fluent in English in a single summer. She earned a scholarship to attend a math and science magnet school, and after graduation, she joined the National Guard and became a paralegal. Prisma was a former National Guard member and a paralegal who recently started a new job at a car dealership called 123TX Auto. On Wednesday, April 19, 2019, she woke up, made a few calls and dropped off her son, Dominic, at a babysitter before reporting for work at a dealership. The day started out like countless other days before that. However, she eventually took a lunch break, and that's when things became a little bit weird and strange. What we do know is that she headed to a restaurant called E-Bar Tex-Mex for lunch. There, she met up with her ex-boyfriend Ryan. Here's some footage showing Prisma sitting at a bar alone and chatting on the phone as she waited for Ryan to arrive. After Ryan arrived, they ate together, and then sometime later, Ryan left the establishment. In this footage, Prisma is shown in the restaurant all alone. Sometime later, Prisma was involved in a verbal disturbance and was asked to leave the premises. It was reported that after having one too many drinks, the bartender refused to serve her more alcohol. Prisma couldn't take a no for an answer and was therefore asked to leave the bar. Was there a reason Prisma was trying to get drunk on her lunch break, knowing that she still had to return back to work to finish off her day? However, as it would happen, Prisma wouldn't even return to work later that day. Another strange thing is that phone logs show that Prisma had called her babysitter and spoke for 52 minutes that afternoon. That was very much out of the ordinary, since her conversations with her babysitter were usually at most 10 minutes or so. Things get even stranger from there. Not long after leaving the establishment, Prisma got involved in a road rage incident. It was even alleged that Prisma even pulled out a gun on the other motorist. She fled the scene before other officers arrived. At this point, Prisma continued driving in the direction of her ex-boyfriend's apartment. 4 months later, police would release the following surveillance footage. Security footage shows Prisma parking her Jeep Wrangler on the side of the road before getting out and running towards the closing gate in order to get in before the gate closed. Later, we see the security footage of Prisma near the elevator. And just like that, Prisma vanished into thin air. One witness who claimed to have been in the parking lot at the same time as Prisma mentioned that they saw Prisma crying while on the elevator. Another witness commented that they saw Prisma on the top floor of the parking garage crying next to a silver car with its trunk open. Prisma's babysitter was the first person to report him missing after she didn't pick up her son that evening. Her babysitter found it strange that she didn't pick up her son later that day because, according to Prisma, her son was the most important thing in her life. At the time of recording this video, police do not have any leads nor any suspects. A graduate of Vivian Gaither High School in Tampa, Florida, Kesse attended the University of Central Florida in Orlando and graduated in 2003 with a degree in finance. At the time of her disappearance, she was working as a finance manager at Central Florida Investments Timeshare Company in Ocala, Florida, and had recently bought a condominium home in Orlando. The weekend before she vanished, Kesse had vacation with her boyfriend in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. Returning on Sunday, she stayed that night at her boyfriend's home, then drove straight to work on the morning of Monday, January 23, 2016. Kesse was seen for the last time leaving work at approximately 6 p.m. on January 23rd. She spoke by phone with her father while driving home at around 6:15 and then with her boyfriend at around 10 p.m. She was in the habit of texting or telephoning her boyfriend before leaving for work, so it was unusual when she did neither the next morning. His call to her went to voicemail. When Kesse failed to arrive at work, her employer contacted her parents, who began the 2-hour drive from their home to hers. Kesse's parents noticed that her car was missing, but saw nothing out of the ordinary in her home. A wet towel and clothes laid out, amongst other things, suggested that she had showered, dressed, and prepared for work that morning. Friends and family distributed flyers about Kesse that evening, and the Orlando Police Department organized search parties on foot and on horseback, as well as by boat, helicopter, car, and ATV. On Monday, January 23, 2006, at approximately 6 p.m., Kesse leaves work and calls her parents, the last time her family hears from her. She arrives home for the first time since having left for vacation. At 10 p.m., Kesse and her boyfriend talk by phone and say their goodnights. He is the last person to speak with her before her disappearance. On Tuesday, January 24, 2006, at around 7:30 a.m., investigators initially believed that Kesse was abducted as she was walking from her front door to her car. At approximately 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., Kesse's boyfriend, who normally would have heard from her by now, calls her on the way to work, but it goes directly to voicemail. He chalks it up to a meeting she had mentioned to him. His subsequent attempts are likewise unsuccessful. Kesse's parents call him to say that she had failed to show up at work. At 11 a.m., alarmed at Kesse's uncharacteristic no-call, no-show, her employer contacts her parents, who begin the drive from Tampa to Orlando. On the way, they call to ask the manager of her condominium to check her home with a spare key. He reports that everything appears normal inside and that her car is missing outside. At 12 p.m., only 1.2 miles from Kesse's home, surveillance cameras at an apartment complex record a person in the act of parking her car and walking away. The car and footage were not discovered until 2 days later. At 3 p.m., Kesse's parents and brother arrived at her apartment. They find evidence that she had been home that morning. They call the police. As Kesse as an adult, police initially hold that she may have left of her own volition. At 5 p.m., families and friends saturate the areas with flyers that show Kesse's picture. The police send a detective to her home and begin interrogations and searches. On Thursday, January 26, 2006, at approximately 8:10 a.m., seeing Kesse's car on the news, a tenant of a nearby complex informs the police that it had sat abandoned in the front of their apartment for several days. Police confirm that it is Kesse's 2004 Chevy Malibu. The vehicle is photographed and taken for forensic examination. Police examine local surveillance footage and discover an unidentified person parking her car and walking away. With no sign of forced entry or a struggle, investigators initially theorized that on the morning of January 24th, Kesse left her apartment for work and locked her front door, only to be abducted at some point while walking towards or getting into her car. On January 26 at around 8:10 a.m., Her black 2004 Chevrolet Malibu was found parked at another apartment complex about a mile from her own. Investigators were excited to learn that several hidden cameras at apartments surveyed the part of the lot where her car had been parked as well as the exit. The surveillance footage showed an unidentified person of interest dropping Kesse's vehicle off at approximately noon that day she went missing. None of her family or friends recognized the person, whose physical features were not clear on the video. Investigators were disheartened to find that the best video captured of the subject in 3 separate snapshots were obscured by the complex fencing, the posts aligning to conceal the face. One journalist called the suspect the luckiest person of interest ever. The FBI was called in to determine the person's size and gender, but could only say that the person stood between 5'3" and 5'5". NASA also enhanced the video to help identify the suspect. Detectives interpreted the valuables left inside the car to imply that robbery was not a motive in the case. A search dog tracked a scent that led from her parked car to her apartment complex, prompting detectives to believe that the suspect might have returned to her apartment's parking lot after abandoning the car. A forensic examination of the car yielded little to no way of evidence, only a latent print and a small DNA fiber. Investigators deduced that the car had been wiped down. The following items are known to be missing: her cell phone, her iPod, her keys, her purse, her briefcase, and the outfit she was wearing. Authorities were unable to ping her cell phone, its power remaining off. Her bank account keycard has not been used since her disappearance. As is customary, investigators first questioned Kesse's immediate family and close friends to see if any of them could have had a motive to abduct her. Her ex-boyfriend, recently upset and wishing to get back together with her, was also interrogated, but it was concluded that he had nothing to do with her abduction. Her current boyfriend was also questioned, but his alibi checked out, eliminating him as a suspect. At the time of her disappearance, Kesse's condominium complex had been undergoing a major expansion, and many of the laborers on site were non-English speaking. Kesse had told family members on several occasions that the construction workers constantly catcalled, whistled at, and even harassed her. Due to the language barrier, investigators were unable to interrogate many of them. No other leads regarding them were discovered. Detectives then turned their focus to her place of employment and began questioning her co-workers. It was learned that a manager where she worked had desired a relationship with her, but that she had refused his advances because she was against workplace relationships. Detectives interviewed him multiple times but ultimately ruled him out as a suspect. Investigators and Kesse's friends and family remain open to the theory that she fell victim to human trafficking but consider it less likely than others. In May of 2007, Kesse's company, led by David A. Siegel, offered a $1 million reward for information leading to her whereabouts, with a July 4th deadline and the stipulation that she had to be alive. It was never claimed. A $5,000 reward for information leading to the whereabouts of her remains was available through Central Florida Crime Line. The case received state and national press attention at the time of her disappearance. She is still considered missing by the Orlando Police Department, the FBI, Orange County Police, FDLE, NCIC, NCMA, and Interpol. On May 2, 2008, the Florida House of Representatives unanimously passed Senate Bill 502, the Jennifer Kesse and Tiffany Sessions Missing Persons Act, to reform how missing persons are handled in Florida. As of June 10, 2010, the FBI has taken the case over from the Orlando Police Department. Kesse remains on the FBI's most wanted missing list. The latest search for her took place on February 2014, and investigators continue to receive and pursue leads. Logan Drew Schiendelman is an American man who disappeared under mysterious circumstances in Thurston County, Washington in May of 2016. The son of a mixed-race mother and a Saudi Arabian father, Schiendelman was primarily raised by his grandmother in Tumwater, Washington, near the capital of Washington State, Olympia, where he was a star athlete at the Tumwater High School. Logan Drew Schiendelman was born on June 27, 1996 and raised in Tumwater, Washington by his maternal grandmother Virginia Gebo. His father was a Saudi Arabian native who conceived Schiendelman with his mother Hannah while visiting the Pacific Northwest on business. According to Gebo, Schiendelman's father left the United States before his birth and the two never had a relationship. Schiendelman and his older half-sister Schlo became legal dependents of their grandmother Gebo after Hannah decided to move to Seattle to attend art school. Schiendelman attended Tumwater High School, where he had been a star defensive back on the school's football team and a model student. Schiendelman's mother Hannah lived nearby in Olympia throughout most of his life. As Schiendelman became a teenager, his grandmother stated that he experienced an identity crisis due to being mixed race. Schiendelman's mother was half white and half black, while his father was a Saudi native and he had been primarily raised by his white grandmother. After graduating high school in 2015, Schiendelman enrolled in Washington State University, approximately 300 miles away in Pullman, completed 1 year of his studies before deciding to return to Tumwater and drop out of college. After Schiendelman left college, he moved in with his grandmother Gebo and half-sister Schlo. Gebo stated that she was aware he had been smoking marijuana at the time, which she worried was causing him to suffer from slight paranoia. He was kind of at a loss with what he was going on with his life, she recalled. In Tumwater, Schiendelman worked several odd jobs, which included at a laundering facility and laboring on his great-aunt's 5-acre farm. On the morning of May 19, 2016, Schiendelman spoke with his grandmother Gebo while the two prepared for their respective jobs. Gebo recalled the conversation. He was just really nervous, which he isn't usually, kind of on a mission. She also stated that he had claimed to have had an epiphany. Gebo told Schiendelman that they could continue their conversation later that evening before departing for her job at the Washington State Department of Ecology. After Schiendelman failed to arrive home, Gebo tracked his cell phone and saw it had pinged near Olympia. This led her to assume he was visiting his mother there. By the following day, May 20th, Schiendelman failed to return home, and Gebo attempted to report him missing, but found the Thurston County Police Department closed for the weekend. On Monday, May 23rd, she filed a missing persons report, and upon doing so, she was notified that Schiendelman's car, a black 1996 Chrysler Sebring, had been impounded on May 20th. The vehicle had been found parked at milepost 92 alongside southbound Interstate 5 between Tumwater and Maytown. His personal items, including his wallet, several bags of food, and cell phone, were all found in his car, which had been directly turned over to Gebo from the impound lot. Inside Schiendelman's wallet was his debit card, driver license, and $25 in cash. Shortly after Schiendelman's disappearance, several witnesses came forward to Thurston County Police stating they had seen Schiendelman's vehicle on Interstate 5 the morning of May 20th. A woman driving on the interstate that morning reported seeing Schiendelman with two Caucasian men standing at the back of his car, which was parked on the right shoulder of the interstate near exit 95. She recalled seeing the car at the same location when returning home that evening, but this time with the hood lifted and no one was visibly present. She described one of the men as being around 6 feet 0 inches tall with a thin build, blonde hair in a bowl cut, and wearing a tank top and jean shorts that were too small for him. The other man was described as having shoulder-length blonde hair and wearing a flannel shirt with jeans. On June 30, 2017, law enforcement released a police sketch of the former man. Around 2 p.m. on May 20th, 3 individuals called 911 to report a car matching Schiendelman's drifting across the lanes of Interstate 5 between Tumwater and Maytown, near the milepost where Schiendelman's car had been discovered. The witnesses reporting that the car veered across 3 lanes toward the center divider, hitting the concrete barrier and stopping. No one appeared to be driving the car. A truck driver passing by reported seeing a Caucasian man with brown or red hair jumping out of the vehicle's passenger side and running into the woods on the side of the interstate. Later in the evening of May 20th, there was a potential sighting of a naked teenager in the area, though the identity of the vigil is unknown. Thurston County Detective Frank Frawley, "We thought that might have been Logan, and so they initiated a search using dogs. They didn't locate anything. Could have been Logan, could have been anybody." The last clothing Schiendelman was known to be wearing, including a black windbreaker, a white shirt, jeans, and possibly a pair of Nike shoes. Schiendelman's uncle, Mike Ware, a retired Thurston County sheriff, assisted in organizing search efforts for his nephew. Searches focused on the 2-mile radius surrounding the interstate where Schiendelman's car had been discovered, specifically the woods adjacent to the shoulder of the interstate. Searches were done both on foot and by aircraft, but no sign of Schiendelman was found. In June 2016, Ware told ABC News, "The area is extremely thick and brushy. I've spent hours out there searching myself. Canines were brought in to search and it's been covered extensively, but nothing has ever been found." The Schiendelman family subsequently hired a private investigator to research his disappearance, but noted that little information was available, making search efforts difficult. Because Schiendelman's vehicle had been impounded and had not been processed by a crime lab, any potential evidence inside was rendered unusable. Using cell phone records, law enforcement were able to track Schiendelman's movements on the morning of May 20th, which showed he had traveled towards Interstate 5 heading south. He then turned around and headed north before reversing direction again, heading south on Interstate 5 and eventually stopping where his vehicle was recovered. Early in the investigation, law enforcement questioned the boyfriend of Schiendelman's half-sister, who had recently moved into their household. Tensions between Schiendelman's and her boyfriend prompted detectives to question him, though he was ruled out as having any involvement in Schiendelman's disappearance after passing a polygraph examination. At the time of making this video, police do not have any leads nor suspects in the disappearance. And there you have it, 3 mysterious disappearances that seem to have taken straight out of a movie, with no arrests, no suspects, and no explanations as to what may have happened and, most importantly, why. It's as though these 3 people have literally disappeared into thin air. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy similar content, please do check out some of the other videos on this channel and subscribe so you do not miss any future content.